Very quickly, what I'd love to do is I'd love to give our audience a little takeaway from each one of you. So if you had to give retailers one good piece of advice, what would it be for coming out of this recession and moving forward?
I would say one of the dangers that retailers have is that they try to emulate their top competition, which in most cases in the drug field would be a Walgreens or a CVS, and in mass would be a Target or a Walmart. And I think that they have to strive more for their own personal identity and give people a reason to make them a destination shop.
I like that, a destination shop. Jim?
On this one, I'm going to agree entirely with
So
Jay.
I don't have to separate you two.
You don't have to separate us on this one.
I agree with most of what he said today. And Tom.
He's right, because what you see going on, and you asked a question earlier about store formats and where people shop and things like that. And what's happened, if you go back 30 years ago, you bought food in a food store, drugs in a drugstore,
right,
and household goods in a mass merchant. Now everybody sells everything, and I make my decision based on who has, because I'm in all these stores all the time, who has the best offering for an individual category, and I'm fine splitting it up. So the issue, what you're trying to save in the store is you're trying to save that trip.
Okay.
And you're trying to keep somebody from going somewhere else. And the only way you do that is by getting them to where they have become loyal to something that's reasonably unique to your store.
Perfect. And Tom, wrap it up for us.
It's like short answers. It's not possible to give one thing, but I'll try.
Yes, but you can, and I know.
I know. I'll try. I think retailers have embraced private label. The consumers have embraced private label. So private label is going to be one of the issues. I urge retailers to embrace the concept of partnership, to spend more time giving an open door and an open office to discussion with manufacturers to really talk about partnership. You could parade 1,000 manufacturers through here, and 90% of them will tell you it's impossible to talk to retailers. So embrace partnership with manufacturers who can offer you real innovation and real value. Give that message out and give them appointments. And that way that the partnership will build, because the partnership at the moment is pretty broken.
Well, what I'm getting mostly is that there is hope, and that's what is so great about this, is that there is an evolution going on, and I want to thank you, Tom and Jim and Jay, for being with us today. It has been, as I knew it would, very energetic. Now, Wall Street has been watching the retail marketplace too. Citigroup's Deborah Weinswig has some strong opinions about the importance of store brands in today's retail marketplace. Tim Simmons, host of PLMALive's monthly interview series, found her eager to discuss just what Wall Street is seeing.
Deborah, welcome to PLMA Live. Given all the economic uncertainty these days, what kind of a year is 2010 going to be for retailers and their store brands?
I think it's gotten very difficult out there. When you've got 1 out of 8 Americans on food stamps, it's a tough environment, and everyone's looking to, consumers are economizing, and, we're hearing from retailers, consumers aren't stocking up like they used to, even when you're offering items at stock up type of prices. And I think, you've got, consumers out there cherry picking. I think it's a very difficult environment, and, I think the consumer is really still trying to figure things out. So I think that we're going to see, very aggressive pricing in 2010, and that's why I think private label fits into this all extremely well from 2 perspectives. 1, it drives loyalty, and 2, for the most part, it's still, the best value around.
It sounds as if you think the value of store brands plays well into the current mood of consumers.
The consumer doesn't want to, feel like a chump, right? I think of that's this environment, right? So they want to feel smart. So if I can get the same quality at a 30% savings, and sometimes, in some cases, the quality is better, and I can save 30%, then, I want to buy the private label. And I also think that, the stigma around private label, right? You're now proud to put the private label on your kitchen counter, whereas maybe you served it in the past and you put the private label bag underneath the kitchen counter. Right now, you feel like a smart consumer, so you put it on your kitchen counter. And I think it's really across the board. I mean, we're seeing, I think, right, Super Value has these, these test kitchens that they're very proud to show you, where they're doing, there's a lot more thought and, and interest and excitement at the retailers even behind private label than I think I've seen in my entire decade-plus career in food retailing. So I think we're seeing a very different and unique interest in private label than we've really seen in the past.
Don't you think retailers started investing in their private label programs well before the recession?
I'll tell you, I really felt probably about 5 years ago there was a real change in private label. Right? If you go back to the old days, right, at Kroger, it was cost cutter, right? We used to have I remember the generic packaging, right? The white with the black. And I really felt about 5 years ago, you started to hear, and it was from the CEOs, right? We're going to put, right, it started with the packaging actually. So let's make it look pretty. And then let's really start to think about the quality of what's inside the box. And so once it looks pretty and the customer will actually pull it off the shelf, and then we get the quality inside right, then let's really think about where we're priced so that, so the customer will actually, there'll be more of a wow factor. And let's start to sample. So we're going to have to staff up right on the, on the sales floor, and let's put some marketing behind it, maybe even some TV advertising, maybe in our circular. I think that I actually have to say, I've been surprised at how much effort has been put behind private label. I'm not often surprised, but I will say that, and it's been very positive, because I actually think at the end of the day, loyalty is very important. And private label drives loyalty. And you can have loyalty card programs and this, that, and the other, but this is a very unique way to drive loyalty. And right when you're Kroger and you've got 35% of your units sold are private label, you're doing something very right.
Deborah, thank you for giving us a Wall Street perspective on what's ahead for private label and retailing.
Thank you so much, Tim. Okay, now we're going to bring back PLMA President Brian Shara for some final comments on what retailers have been doing. And Brian, you've seen all of what we've been talking about today.
Yes.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that the key to everything that retailers have been doing eventually are the products. And this is where store brands have been very successful. Many of the products are unique in many of the retail companies. They respond to the needs of consumers. They're not even in competition in some cases with national brands, so that the store brand not only identifies itself as special, but the consumer is loyal to that product. Then there are the other products which are in fact comparable to national brands, and where store brands, I think, has been so important for the retailer is the price differential. National brands, as a result of commodity costs, other reasons as well, have priced themselves very, very high, and many of the consumers are not willing to pay that price point. Store brands have been able to capitalize on that, and in terms of the recession, have won over a great deal of consumer support.
Now, we talked earlier to a couple of our guests about permanent changes. Do you see the shopper making some permanent changes in the direction of private label?
We're going to be talking about that in tomorrow's report. I'll be able to tell you more after tomorrow's report.
And that's exactly what I was hoping you would say, because you need to join us for tomorrow's report. 2010 and beyond will be our next and final report in this series. And I hope you're going to join us for part 3. Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.